Well, I guess we're recording.
Yep, I got the notification.
Okay. So would you admit everybody?
All right.
Here they come.
Thanks, Noel.
I suspect the number will go down after the first hearing.
Maybe not.
Somewhat. I know a lot of people here for the first one.
Ariane's here. Okay. It being the evening of Wednesday, February 8th at 7 o'clock and a quorum being present, I'll call the meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission to order pursuant to Governor Baker's signing of Senate Bill 2475, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and is extended by the state legislature in July of 2022. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website at www.bellinghamma.org. In the event of technical difficulties, remote access is not guaranteed and the commission cannot be held responsible. Moving forward in this meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons requesting to speak are visible on screen and respectfully request such access. Okay. The meeting is open and I will proceed with the opening of our first public hearing. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct 12 3-unit townhomes, stormwater management system, septic system, and grading within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and within estimated habitat located at Assessor's Map 59, Parcel 60A, Blackstone Street and North Street, Bellingham. Ryan Racine, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of John Mashusian, Raven Homes, Northborough, Mass. The hearings will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, February 8th at 7. Okay, just a little bit of procedural housekeeping here so that everyone understands what we are going to do. This is our very first cut. We're opening the hearing. The applicant's representative will make a presentation. This will be subject to peer review. We haven't gotten to that point yet. The commission does have some observations and informational requests. The commission will make those. And once the commission has had an opportunity to address the applicant, we will open it up briefly for comments or questions. Just so that everyone understands fully, we unfortunately, we are not charged with dealing with a variety of issues that are planning board issues, such as traffic, lighting, density, these kinds of issues will be addressed at the planning board. And so I think we're ready to proceed. And I think Ryan will be making the presentation.
Yes, that's correct. Good evening. Ryan Rosine with Goddard Consulting. I believe also on the call is Amanda Cavalier from Jurgen and Hellenen, the engineer, if in case there's any stormwater related questions. And I believe John Mashushin was also supposed to be on this call. I'm not sure if he is on yet or not. Is that right if I share my screen?
Absolutely.
All right.
Noel, have you got that one?
All set.
Thank you.
Okay, can everybody see this okay?
We can.
All right, perfect. So just a little background. This is just a locus map of the area. So Blackstone Street here and North Street going this way. And you can see on this ortho photo that a majority of the land, or approximately half the land, is agricultural land. And then another portion of it is forested. Over here to this eastern portion in this corner, there's a BVW wetland. And then, as stated before, the whole site or majority of the site is located in priority and estimated habitat for rare species. So I'll go to the plan set here. Let me just go up a few pages to the title. So this is the whole plan set. So the plan for this is the site is going to be split into 2 lots. As you can see here, there's this southern lot here, lot 1, which is where the development will be taking place. And then this northern piece and then comes over and covers this wetland as well, which is about 12.6 acres. And that's going to be a conservation restriction as part of the conservation management permit for the rare species. And if I'm not mistaken, in the previous project, a couple of years ago, when this was proposed as 4 single-family homes, this commission agreed to hold that CR. And I think from my conversations with your administrator, the commission is still willing to hold the conservation restriction on this property.
I believe that is correct.
All right, perfect. So I'll just go down a little bit. So as you can see here, here's the limit of work is the dashed line going around the property. This will also be the turtle barrier fence as part of the turtle protection plan that's going to be put in place to protect the eastern box turtle that are located in this area. And that's a requirement from Natural Heritage and part of the CMP. Here we can see the general layout of the site. As you can see, there's a roadway from Blackstone Street, goes through the site and connects to North Street. And you can see the 12 3-unit townhomes. And to the eastern portion are the stormwater infiltration basins, which is why we're before you tonight. Portions of the stormwater infiltration basins are within the 100-foot buffer zone to the BVW. And that's the only portion of this entire site work that is within jurisdiction of the Concom. And here we can see there's also a septic system plan, a shared septic system here with the leaching fields and reserve fields here. Are there any questions so far, or should I just keep going and wait and leave questions to the end?
No, yeah, if you would just continue with the presentation.
Yep.
And then.
Sure thing.
And we understand this is a first cut. We understand that it'll be peer reviewed. But, once you've completed the presentation, we'll make a couple of, we'll give you a little direction for future
right.
review.
Yep.
So, yeah, please continue.
All right. So here, this is just the utility layout showing the water lines. So the plan does propose to connect to city water, gas, and electric. And you can see the drain layout there. Keep going. This is just a cross section of the roadway that's proposed. We can go into more detail if you'd like. Here is a planting plan for the whole site. You can see throughout the area in these open spaces, the plant list, and specifically mostly around the infiltration basins here. We have the plant list down here. We're putting in a lot of trees and shrubs. This is a lighting diagram. I know you had just mentioned something about that. This may be more of a planning board issue. Here is a more detailed look at each unit planting plan. As you can see, so in between each unit and on the sides, there's a variety of native plants that are there. And then obviously here we have adequate access for fire trucks and other emergency vehicles to be able to access the site. These are just more details, test pit data for the leaching fields and infiltration basins. And I just wanted to quickly point out the erosion control measures that we're proposing. Silt fence, like I had mentioned, both for erosion control and the turtle barrier fence. With that, a filter mitt will be installed, and also silt sacks in all the catch basins around. I can quickly show here, this is a more detailed view of the buffer zone impacts. So all the work is between the 50 and 100-foot buffer zone. Just a little bit of forest and trees will have to be removed for this. Most of it is just agricultural field, open field at this time. So it's pretty minimal work. And That's pretty much it. I'll leave that there, and any questions about any of that, I'd be happy to answer.
Sure, because this is a preliminary discussion. What I'd like to do is present to you some direction from the commission moving forward for some of the things that we'll be looking for in subsequent review. Now, obviously, we're going to be putting this out to peer review, and especially for the engineering aspects. Normally, what we do is we run our peer reviews concurrent with the planning board. It saves time, effort, and expense having that type of review. So a couple of the things that we've noticed here, or that we would like you to address in subsequent hearings. We're going to need field shot grades, not assumed grades. You noticed on one of the plans that there was a note directing the contractor doing the construction to notify the engineer in the event that the grades didn't match. We are going to require field shot grades for the work. That's the first thing. We want to make sure that, and I haven't, the commission hasn't thoroughly reviewed the drainage calcs, but we need to make sure that the criteria for the local regulations for stormwater are met. That includes modeling for the 25 up to the 25-year storm under frozen ground conditions, utilizing the Cornell rainfall method, no increase in volume for the 25-year storm, and 100-year storm 1-foot freeboard. And that brings us to the next directive we're going to have. If you'll look, and if you could enlarge that a little, Ryan, you have a infiltration basin number 2. It's to the west of the site.
Yep, right here, that one.
That one right there. You have an overflow that's going to be onto the CR property. All of that water, any overflow must be maintained within the property, the development property boundaries. We're not going to allow you to have property, stormwater running off of the property. So that'll have to be contained within the confines of the property. We noticed that the soil tests were not witnessed. If you have that information, please provide that. We didn't see it in the plans. And we noticed that in one of the detention basins, it's difficult without field shot grades, but it appeared you have the bare minimum of separation to groundwater. And it appears that portions of the basins are built above grade. That's a planning board issue. I know that they're trying to have all of their stormwater management structures constructed below grade, and we'll leave that to them. And the last issue we had was we would really like to conduct the site visit. In order to do that, we would need you to state the locations of the stormwater management structures that are most proximate to the resource area, along with the 100-foot buffer zone. It's a relatively simple exercise. From our perspective, it's as you stated, Ryan, it's a buffer zone project. So if the wetland flags are still in position, the 100-foot buffer zone and the nearest point of intersection for the basins, are the wetland flags still up, Ryan?
I do not know. I would have to go and check. I'm not completely sure.
Sure.
So
why don't we have you check and then stake out or flag the locations of the stormwater management structures, because we have quite a queue of site walks backing up right now. There are a lot of applications, and it's been a very unusual winter, as I'm sure an environmental company is aware. We spent a lot of time in the field this winter, which is a little unusual.
mhm.
And I think that that's provided impetus for a lot of, applicants to try to get in queue so that they can get their site reviews done. So if you would, after this hearing, we'll try to come up with a date. We'll see if that date might be acceptable to you. But right now, I'd like to open it up to the Conservation Commission. Are there any further questions or comments on this?
No, I think you addressed the issues I had, Mr. Chairman, especially with the infiltration basin #2 crossing over the property line.
Okay, thank you. I know Mike usually speaks about.
Yeah, I got a couple of quick ones, Mr. Chair. One is, you had mentioned some of the things that are going to be needed to be provided for information, and as far as meeting the state and local bylaws and criteria, but phosphorus loading too, for any of the aspects of the site which will generate runoff, that how that's being treated to meet the criteria that the state has imposed on Bellingham as a trial sound for phosphorus loading. You already addressed the detention basin in the conservation restriction, which I noted too. The detention basin closest to the road, the very large one, I didn't look at the details enough, but eventually I have some concerns, having passed along that section of road for many, many years, that it's already a low area and runoff comes from the road down towards that area. I haven't looked at the elevations and stuff carefully for what's being proposed, but that could be a serious concern from right at the edge of the existing wetland, tree line, just to the right of the word Blackstone Street there, where the detention basin starts. The road is, for the most part, dipping down into the field, and the existing elevations may be problematic. And the 3 reserve fields caught my eye. I'd like some further explanation down the road why we're having so many, and what the reason for having them is as reserves. If it's just in case one of the 2 existing ones fails, that's one thing, but obviously there's not going to be any site expansion if everything else on the site is turned over to conservation restricted property. And the last was roof leaders. We do require that for infiltration from the roofs, and I'm not sure if that's already been covered or will be in a presentation down the road. And actually, I take it back, one more thing. I thought I saw in the, I'm going to get the abbreviation wrong because I don't have the documents in the package right in front of me, but in the initial presentation material, actually might be the beginning of this one. Ryan, could you scroll up to the very first page?
Yep.
Please, thanks.
This one?
Yeah, no, this isn't the report. There was the report, I think it was the last one in the packet. It looked like, I want to say it's EER or EE something report.
EIR, is that what you're talking about?
EIR, maybe EIR. Okay.
Yeah, so I can quickly go through this. This was so the project previously had to go through MIPA and get a ENF certificate. And since the project scope had changed, we had to file a notice of project change with the MIPA office. And so we did that. And so here you can see we just got a letter back at the end of January from the MIPA office stating that we do not have to do an EIR, and that this is the new certificate for the site. Okay, so, and I know a lot of people that are observing this have no clue what those abbreviations mean, or perhaps don't. So if you might want to say what EIR is and the MIPA. Yep. So the EIR is an environmental impact report. And if the MIPA office, which is the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Environmental Policy Act. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. A lot of abbreviations.
I know it.
Yeah. So you know, if a project rises to a certain level that they determine they need to have an environmental impact report to determine what kind of impacts a project is going to have on the environment, different aspects of the environment, whether that be water, climate change, air quality, all that sorts of things. And so the original project did not require one. And then this one, the change did not also, you know, it doesn't require one either. Right. I just want to make sure it was clear that you are not, or the applicant is not proposing that this just be switched, that this is in fact a whole new application, because the first 20 something pages, I think, of the report, not this one, because it's only 13 pages, it was the really long one, had the previous project on it as if it was still being applied for. And then about page 16 or something like that, 20, whatever it was, it started talking about and showing plans for the new project and the road going through to Blackstone Street and so forth. So you knew you were looking at the newer plan because the previous one didn't have that. So
this is being treated as a brand new project, correct?
Yes, yep. This is treating as a brand new project. The previous project, I don't know if you remember, it was going to be 4 single-family house lots, and there was only one right next to the wetland where they got an order of conditions from this commission, I think in 2020, to put a driveway through the buffer zone through the same area where we're proposing the infiltration basin grading work. I also did submit a COC request for that old order of conditions just to close it out, because we're no longer doing any of that work. Just to close it out, so that's not an open order of conditions. But yeah, this is a new project, and that's why we had to file the notice of project change with the MIPA office as well, because it changed. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that both for other applicants and myself as well, or other people listening in as well as myself. Thanks. That's it for me.
Okay, what's the disposition of the peer review? Have we developed a scope yet?
No.
Okay, so, well,
I think excuse me,
Yeah,
Mr.
go
Chairman,
ahead.
I think the applicant is going in front of the planning board tomorrow evening. Is that correct, Ryan?
I believe that is correct. I think Amanda can confirm that. But as far as I know, yes.
So they'll-
Yes, we are scheduled to be in front of planning tomorrow night.
So that's
wait, I
probably
mean, so that's probably
when.
because the bulk of this review will be under their purview. They'll probably instigate the commencement of the peer review process.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I know a couple of people have contacted the administrator and requested an opportunity to speak. We will allow that, keeping in mind that, you know, we run a pretty tight schedule. We have quite a number of hearings tonight, and typically our hearings run about a half hour. So we're getting up against that deadline. So is there someone who would like to ask questions or to speak?
Hi, I was
Yes.
raising my hand and then I realized there's probably a lot of us and you can't, you can't
No,
see me.
no, but we see you.
You'll have to forgive me. I'm stuck in my son's room, and yes, that's a giant dinosaur over my head, but I'll be nice and succinct. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Mason. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. Also on the call are my parents, Ed and Tina Cameron. They live on the property. We're at 205 Blackstone Street. My Aunt Nancy and her husband, they are next to me, and part of their land abuts a property. And my cousins Rod and April, and their land also abuts a property, and the majority of it is also attached to the wetland. I was wondering if I could just give a little background and then share my screen at some point.
Sure.
And I'll keep it nice and brief, but basically, my grandparents moved here 70 years ago with my aunt, my dad, and my uncle. They had a family farm, and we've been land stewards for 70 years here. Their house was the first house on Blackstone Street. This project, I will say, definitely came as a huge shock to us based on the character of this neighborhood, a lot of which we will be talking about as a neighborhood organization tomorrow night. Tonight, I'm going to just stick to the conservation concerns that we have. If you look at this property that he has up now, you know, the wetland is a huge concern for us. There are massive turtle crossings there. And, you know, without having much field area to go to, we're concerned about, you know, putting a lot of turtles at risk. In particular, definitely the box turtle, but also with the high density, we are concerned about, you know, foot traffic on the protected wetland. Is there a plan? I might ask the developer a question. Is there a plan to put up fencing or signs? What's going to keep people off the protected wetland and area?
So there are going to be signs stating that the area in the back is the conservation restriction area. I'm not sure, you know, since the CR hasn't been fully developed, it's up to the Conservation Commission as the holder, if they want to allow passive recreation, such as putting trails in there, just walking, things like that.
Okay.
That's really up to them, and that's kind of still up in the air at this time.
Thank
But
you.
no fencing is proposed, because that would be an issue to the turtles. You know,
Right, and
first-
also an issue with foot traffic as well.
Yep.
So it kind of goes both ways, right?
Yep.
May I, Mr. Matthews, may I share my screen?
Okay.
Thank you.
Please.
So what I'm going to show you, the Conservation Commission, this is no new news to you, but to the people on the call, it may be. This area in Bellingham is about 240 acres of rare and endangered core species habitat. It's been incredibly important in my family our entire life, and unfortunately is being brought to light in this manner that, you know, it feels like it's kind of becoming encroached upon. And I know the Conservation Commission works so hard to protect every aspect of this. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for everything that you guys do. You do so much work. If you look here, a few years ago, this 20-acre solar field was put up. There's predominantly fencing around it. I've noticed an uptick in coy wolf population in our neighborhood. So, you know, where we now have 7 acres at the bottom here being put in of dense neighborhood, it just feels like it's becoming so encroached upon, and it feels faster than it has in the past. So we are concerned about protecting this land. If you look at the map on the right, everyone, you can see that that area, and you look at the entire town of Bellingham, just how important this habitat is and how rare it is for our town. So I just want to make it clear that we're taking this very seriously. We're very concerned about it. And like I said, you know, we have a lot to talk about tomorrow night at the planning board. But, you know, back here also, there are a bunch of vernal pools, which are incredibly important. But this wetland in particular, it doesn't look like much if you drive by it, if you don't know it very well. But for us, those of us who have lived here for 70 years, that is an important wetland. It attaches to a larger forested wetland out back, which is also attached to my cousin's property and my aunt's property. And so anything that happens to those wetlands affects all of us. So I would like to just make sure someone's requesting control of my screen.
It's not from us.
Okay, I'll decline that.
Yeah, please.
So, you know, anything that happens here affects all of us. Again, any other concerns, traffic density, et cetera, is going to be brought up. But I just want it to be known that we are very concerned about this. And this is, you know, my children are 4th generation on this land. This is really important to all of us. So thank you.
And so Katie, leave that screen up.
Sure.
I just want to say, you have to understand, between the administrator and myself, we have nearly 70 years ourselves of conservation experience. And you may think that folks drive by a wetland and don't think it looks like much, but all wetlands are important to us.
Yeah.
And we have worked very hard to assure that any activity that takes place near them meets the performance standards. But specifically talking about the solar field, it's a 20-acre solar field. It's in an upland area. It is fenced, but the fences are elevated to allow a small mammal and turtle passage. But more importantly than that, that vernal pool core, that is a certified vernal pool for the marble salamander,
Mhm.
and it is spectacular. And
Yes.
it is preserved. That's a 30-acre parcel. It's preserved in perpetuity.
I love that you just shared that. It's, you know, I'm a science teacher, so I teach this stuff all of the time. And I think Bellingham in particular, you know, I wish they knew more about this. I used to teach at the high school and teach my students all the time about this, but I'm hoping the word gets out about just how important these habitats are. So thank you. And I really do appreciate everything you guys do. And we trust in you and all that you do. You guys have a lot of experience and we really appreciate all of you.
Well, if you continue to participate when the actual conservation restrictions develop, you know, that document will be part of the hearing process, and you'll have an opportunity to review it and potentially make suggestions.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name's Erica Giovanello, and my father, George Wolf, and our family also has lived right across the street, 268 Blackstone Street, from this proposed development. And I just want to add one thing. Thank you all for what you've presented. Katie, thank you. And thank you to this board for all that you're doing. But someone had mentioned that little pool that runs off of the street. We live right across from that little pool. And I'm here to tell you, I've been skating on that for over 50 years in the winter months. And that's without any pavement there. So that little pool is a large portion of that front field, if you will. So
We know the area that you're talking, and we may have met you when we were reviewing the wetland line for the 4-lot subdivision. I'm not sure. We met 2 people who lived across the street.
oh, that might have been us.
It might have been, okay. And so, we have seen the road does pitch in the direction of the field in that location. And that's something I think that will have to be addressed. And Ryan, this is an opportunity to pass that along to your engineering team. Because I'm sure you're not going to want to have pooling water near the entrance, because that's going to be fairly close to your entrance. So there's, I'm sure, a strategy to be able to accommodate that water, change the road, or to accept that water into your stormwater management system. But that's a valid point, and I'm sure that nobody in the development team is going to want to see that happening post-development, because water will be running into their property.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we are right on time for our next hearing. I want to thank everyone for their participation, and I'm going to strongly encourage you to please continue. Sometimes these projects are lengthy. There's quite a bit of information that has to be reviewed. Changes will occur. But understand that public participation is always welcome, and you can contact our administrator at any time. If she's out in the field, she will get back to you. And we take your comments seriously. That being the case, we're going to rely on Ryan to let the administrator know when it might be acceptable for us to get out there and take a peek at this. In the meantime, we'll be developing the scope and putting this out for peer review. We're gonna schedule this for a continuation on March 8th. But Ryan, if it appears that there's not going to be sufficient time to get some of these items done, please let us know, because there's plenty of people waiting for time slots.
Yep, sure thing. And one quick question, is the peer review specifically for the stormwater?
I'm sorry?
Is the peer review going to be specifically for the stormwater, the infiltration basins and all that?
We will have some environmental review on it as well. There's buffer zone projects, so it'll be limited probably.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of March 8th at 7, and to attempt to conduct a site visit before that continuation.
So moved.
Mr. Stanley,
Second,
Mr. O'Haron.
one thing, Mr. Chair, you might want to keep in mind, March 4th is one of the Saturdays that is, since we usually walk on Saturdays, is currently on the slate for the MACC's environmental conference online. So
That's the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions.
Right.
It's a seminar that's run every year. It's how we learn to do what we do.
Yeah.
We'll be
So-
aware of that.
Good
Okay.
reminder, Mike. Thank you.
No further discussion. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to do a roll call vote on this due to the number of participants. Noel,
Aye.
Ariane. She's here somewhere. I saw her in here. Brian,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Ariane. All right, well, that'll be a 4-0 vote.
She's still
Um,
muted.
Yeah, she's muted. Oh, yeah, okay. Anyway, in that event, it's still a majority. So we will.
Sorry, my microphone wasn't working.
That's okay.
Okay. So that's a unanimous vote. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank
Take
you,
care
you
now.
too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Okay. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a 700,000 square foot warehouse facility with associated site appurtenances on a 158-acre parcel located off Hartford Avenue, Bellingham, and identified as assessors map parcels 30-73-1, 24-12, and 31-3. The project proposes temporary and permanent impacts to resource areas jurisdictional to the Wetlands Protection Act of 661 square feet of bordering vegetated wetlands, 95 square feet of bank, 561 square feet of land under water bodies, and 100-foot buffer zone with proposed mitigation, and is located within the riverfront area to Spring Brook. The project also proposes impacts to resource areas jurisdictional for the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw regulations, including 28 linear feet of bank, 15,274 square feet of land subject to flooding, bordering or isolated, 651,879 square feet of buffer zone, and 39,375 square feet of isolated vegetated wetlands, 82 square feet of land under water bodies, and 2,484 square feet of rural pools with proposed mitigation. Andrea Kendall, LEC Environmental Consultants, Worcester, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of Jeff Curley, Bellingham Associates, Boylston Street, Chestnut Hill, Mass. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, February 8th at 7:30. A couple minutes late, but the applicant has requested a 15-minute period of time to present some vernal pool information. And I see Brian is here. Austin, are we correct with that assumption?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you. We don't want to take a lot of time tonight. We thought just kind of in the interest and spirit of just keeping some of the momentum going to a lot of productive conversations, that we just have Brian and the team just provide kind of a high level overview and some additional information relative to what we were thinking in terms of some of the wetland mitigation, the vernal pool replications, in hopes that that will help us frame the discussion as we have a forthcoming site walk at some point in the future, and allow us to continue to be efficient in that regard. So I think with that, I'll do a turn over to Brian. I think Andrea might be jumping on, or was going to jump on later, but I'll have Brian kind of get into some of that and then answer any questions, and we'll let you continue on with your regularly scheduled programming.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Austin. Hello, everyone. So I think we had discussed at prior meetings, requests for representative projects for vernal pool creation, monitoring. We are in the process of compiling that. And some of these other detailed items that we're going to include as part of the comprehensive plan for the creation and monitoring at a high level, the concepts and details, definitive details would include refined information on hydrology, microtopography, substrate, and monitoring associated with the creation of those vernal pools. I guess at this point, we just wanted to check in to see if the commission had any specific requests to expand upon that or dial in on any specific issues. But I think we're nearing the point to provide the commission with that information. And I think we wanted to walk these replication mitigation areas first, because I know there's been some questions about locations. And I think once we have an understanding of the locations, we can provide the more comprehensive information. So again, I just wanted to inquire if there's any specific asks at this point to expand upon, or and then also I think we wanted to talk about scheduling that site visit.
Okay. I don't think, I think at this stage of the game, as we've stated, we're planning to evaluate a couple of those vernal pools that are within the building footprint. And we have stated that we're going to go out and take a look at the areas where the proposed replication is going to be. So I think the information that you're gathering will be helpful. We realize we're going to have to get back out on site. And I think one of the items of business we're going to be doing now is trying to at least develop a schedule so we can get some of these site visits off of our plate. They're really starting to back up. Like I mentioned at the previous hearing, it's been a very unusual winter. A lot of field work has already taken place. We've been out on this site multiple times, probably spent close to 7 hours out in the field already. And we've had a couple of other sites that we've also been out investigating. And the results of tonight's hearing are going to necessitate additional site inspections. So we are working, trying to get that done. We're cognizant that everybody is demanding of our time, but we'll be working on that.
Mr. Chair, a quick question. The replication areas that you're talking about, Brian, for the vernal pool replacement, or there were in those locations, do any of those potentially currently have hydrology and such that should be viewed as, okay, we're expanding on something that's already pretty good, or are you creating from scratch a vernal pool replication area? The reason I'm asking is because if we were talking this spring about going out and looking at certifying a few vernal pool areas or other wetlands areas that weren't suitable to look at until spring, would it make sense to wait to look at those replication areas as well? Or if you're starting from scratch, it wouldn't really matter. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, no, it does.
All right.
Through the chair, we have targeted specifically upland areas to create the wetland mitigation, some of which are an expansion off of existing wetland areas. Others are isolated vegetated wetlands that are similar in nature to what the disturbed footprint is. And, I think as we all have kind of seen out in the field to date, that the vast majority of the wetlands out there, including some of the vernal pool habitats, are relics of man-made disturbance, excavation, and then allowing nature to succeed in establishment of vernal pools. But certainly, the level of detail for these created areas, we'll get into that level of specifics. But I think we basically wanted to because we haven't yet review in the field the locations of these and then provide the level of detail of how it's going to be created and monitored.
Yeah,
to ensure
Brian
success.
would kind of expand on that too. What we had done, if you recall, when we were out the last time, the commission asked us to provide some additional detail, and we made some refining. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, Austin, can you hold on? Your microphone's very, very muddled. I don't know if anyone else.
Better now?
It is better now, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what I was saying is, if you recall, during our last site walk, we had made some refinement to some of the flags out there collectively as a group. We had those reestablished in the field, we resurveyed those, and we did some additional staking of those mitigation areas so that when we're actually out in the field, we're gonna have a much more comprehensive boundary of those, not just the corners. There's gonna be like interim stakes out there too. So I think that'll be helpful. And with the timing that I presume we'd be out for our next site walk either late this month or early March, we're gonna be in that early part of the vernal pool period. So I think the timing, to Mike's point, I think the timing will start to kind of dovetail with being appropriate for us to be looking at these areas, at least in my view.
Yeah, early March might be a little early, but it has been a unusually warm winter, so. And you know, our environmental consultant, Matt Byrne, is here, and I'm sure he can attest to the fact that there's wide variation year to year in when the breeding seasons start. Hopefully what we don't have is, we don't have the critters all moving about and then have a hard frost.
Mm.
So I guess the ball right now is going to be in our court where we can determine when we can get out there. And I know it's probably a little frustrating for you folks while we hammer out what we have available for commissioners' time and in other projects. But you guys are on the radar. We propose to continue this to the evening of March 8th. And so that gives us a few weeks to try to either combine this with other walks or, as we've done in the past, dedicate a whole walk to this site. But rest assured, we'll be working on that. Matt, do you have any observations? Are you, because obviously we're gonna want you to be participating. So we'll have to.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest, you know, the traditionally we look at March 15th as the opening day vernal pools, but as you pointed out, it has been a bit of a weird winter, and you are more southerly, so there's a chance that come the beginning of March things might be underway, but I guess we'd want to kind of keep tabs on that and see what's happening locally before really jumping in.
So there is a Saturday, March 4th. Is that the MACC meeting?
Yes.
Of course. All right, so later in this meeting, we're going to be polling commissioners to find out what time availability there is. And then we'll start scheduling site inspections. Austin, Ian will communicate with you and let you know what we have available.
Cliff, if I could just make a recommendation request, and you guys can certainly talk about it afterwards. Is, you know, I think if we schedule one more site visit at the end of February, either the 18th or 25th, as schedules allow, that would give us an opportunity to walk the entirety of the site. And then at the next site visit, we'd be into the vernal pool season, presumably. And then we can kind of narrow in on some of these areas.
Okay. Yep, we'll
Appreciate
take that
it.
under advisement. And we'll communicate with Austin and let him know. But we will be continuing you to the evening of March 8th. And when are you on again with the planning board?
March 9th.
Oh, they're always behind us. No, I think some of the engineering peer reviews been submitted. Where are you folks in your responses to that?
So we had a very productive conversation with Matt's team at BSC. We're finishing up the written responses to reflect that conversation, and we expect to be submitting back to him in the next couple of days. And hopefully that's enough time in advance where we have a another productive conversation with your team here at the Conservation Commission and Planning Board on the 9th.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. All right. Any further questions or comments at this time? All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of March 8th at 7:30 and to schedule a site visit at some point prior to that continuation.
So moved.
Neil,
A second.
Noel. Again, what I'll do is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll do this by roll call. Neil,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Noel,
Aye.
Ariane,
Aye.
Mike.
Last but not least, I.
Oh, well, everyone has to be last sometime. All right, that's a unanimous vote. So you can look forward to hearing from Ann at some point in the future, nearly in the near future, and we'll move forward.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, thank you
Thanks
very
all.
much.
Good night.
Okay. So before we start the next continuation for Prospect Hill, we have a couple of minutes and we can conduct a little business here. The minutes for December 14th were distributed. We haven't heard back. Are we okay? Can we accept those?
I thought they were great, Mr. Chair. One quick question. If I can share my screen for a second, I'll just show you. It's quicker than trying to read through it. So I just want to make sure I'm not misreading it and anybody else on the Concom thinks it should be modified. Great, but it was one sentence in there. If I could just grab the screen for a second. Everybody see that?
Not yet. Yep.
Okay, the highlighted section there. So we're talking about the site. This is reviewing the project we just talked about at behind the Home Depot.
What page is this, Mike?
This is page, hold on, 4 of 6.
Yep.
So it's just says that is the area where we found some combination of white cedars. I'm assuming we're talking about the white cedar swamp, white cedars trees.
No, it wasn't the White Cedar Swamp. What we did is it was a combination of white cedar, white pine, and maple. It was unusual in that it was right at the border of the resource area, and it's unusual to find a white cedar there. I think that's why we pointed it out, Mike.
Okay, and then the second sentence there, one of the things we've been looking at going forward is the retaining wall there and the height of the engineer block wall. I think we might want to say, in case not that many people read these, but there isn't a retaining wall there currently. It's the proposed retaining wall that is going there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, and I mean, it's sort of implied in there, but I said, no, the white cedars thing caught my eye. Now I remember, yeah, we did talk about that being a real weird spot, but that tree
It
there.
probably didn't need to be included in the minutes. but
Whatever,
we
not a
discussed
big
it.
deal. Everything else looked great to me.
Okay,
So, thanks.
all right. Entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes for the 14th.
So moved.
Second,
Mike, I'll do this by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I think I heard everyone. Okay. So we have a couple of certificate of compliance to sign. So we're going to need to arrange for signatures.
We're also gonna need to discuss some site work dates too, folks.
Yeah, why don't we wait till the end of at the termination of our last hearing, and then
That's fine.
then we can talk, we'll talk about some dates that we can potentially get out there.
What's the administrator's schedule tomorrow in the office?
I will not be in the morning. I'll be in probably noon and after.
Okay, do you want me to shoot you an email, see if you're there first and
That would
stop
be
by?
great. That would
Okay.
be great.
Will do.
Thanks.
Well, that would be two signatures because
I could do Friday morning if Ann's available.
Yes, I'm available.
that would be awesome.
Would be
One
I
more.
could do
gives-
Friday around noon.
Is that
Ariane,
Larry?
that
Perfect.
works great.
That would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are back on schedule.
I don't think that's the right one.
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Back on schedule. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent for the proposed 19 residential lot subdivision entitled Prospect Hill Estates, located at Assessors Map 69, Parcel 87, and Map 65, Parcels 20 and 22 off Lake Street, Bellingham, and Prospect Street, Franklin. The project includes 19 residential lots, roadway, utilities, grading, and stormwater management system. The project proposes impacts of 35 linear feet to bank, 80 square feet of land under water bodies, 490 square feet of bordering lanes and flooding, and 580 square feet of bordering vegetated wetlands with 1,200 square feet of replication and total impacts of riverfront area of 126,000 square feet. That includes 52,049 square feet of inner riverfront area and 74,625 square feet of outer riverfront area. Paul McManus, Ecotech, Grove Street, Worcester, has submitted the filing on behalf of Louis Petrozzi, Wall Street Development, Westwood, Mass. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, February 8th at 8 o'clock. Okay, I see Paul is here. Rob is here. Paul has submitted quite a bit of information. It's been distributed to the commissioners. It's been distributed to the peer reviewer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Paul to run through this, share your screen, run through this and explain it. Sometimes when you're reading something, you're not getting the thought processes that the author had intended. So I think what we'll do is we'll just ask you to make a presentation, go through the information for us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, what I did submit is Rob had prepared colored plans. We did plans that highlighted the wetlands and buffers and riverfront in boundaries in different colors. So you have those as PDFs and some paper copies. In addition, we have submitted plans of the pertinent sheets showing conceptual locations for the stormwater basins that up until now had been proposed on either side of the crossing in the inner riparian area. Rob has sketched those out conceptually for getting those out of the riverfront area. Those are not final designs, but we wanted to put them in front of the commission because we have a couple of threshold questions really that we hope to get to. We also submitted a response to BSC. What I did was I took all the BSC letters and parroted their questions and responded to them. There's some repeats and that sort of thing, but I wanted to just get it all in one place, which I think the commission was looking for. The other thing that I've provided is a riverfront area impact analysis and also proposed restoration of degraded riverfront. And perhaps if it's okay, if I could share my screen.
Absolutely.
Where's my mouse? So, okay, this is one of the colored plan sets. This is the 60 scale of the whole site, and on which I based the this is the figure that I really wanted to talk about. So what you have here, you see I have a color key. And so we have the degraded areas, and these are the degraded areas that were reviewed by BSC. The riverfront here includes down in this area, just to be clear, it's the riverfront boundary based what I'll call on the outer initial delineation.
Okay, hold on just a sec. I think your cursor is the little cross. Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, is there a way to turn that into an arrow or something? Make it a little more visible?
I'm sure there is, but I can't remember how to do it.
There's a little blue arrow right under Bellingham. I'm wondering if maybe that would do it. Up on the taskbar.
On the taskbar.
Yeah. Okay. Now just right there, that little blue arrow. I'm wondering if that might help.
Let me pull this down.
I guess not. All right. Well, we'll go by color, I guess.
There.
Can you enlarge it a little?
Let me see. View.
Do you have a tools there?
I
Yeah.
do.
Okay. Oh no, that's not going to help us. Collect payments. That was good.
Well,
Yeah.
I can.
No, I'm afraid that'll mark it up.
Yeah, it will
Make it confusing. Well, all right. I'm sorry.
If you select the pan, the hand,
Yeah.
if you don't, and then just pan around, but don't click on anything, you'll at least have the hand, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hey, thank you, Neil.
That's helpful. Thank you.
And if you could just enlarge it a little bit.
Yeah, that I can do.
Thanks for giving us a hand, Neil.
Okay. I think if you clicks off site, the blue will go away. There you go. Perfect.
All right, so let me. Okay, so
Now that you derailed the discussion, Mr. Chairman.
I know it.
I'm sorry. I'm
So
sorry.
sorry,
I
Paul.
was having a hard time, Paul. I'm like, I know where he's talking about. I don't see. Okay.
so the point that I was making with my cursor here is that the the riverfront boundaries here represent, in this case, there was some early discussion. I had contemplating tightening up the mean annual high water. We went through that issue. The mean annual high water is this line out here. So it's the, I'll call it the less conservative version. So just to be clear. So what we have here is a degraded riverfront as reviewed by Ethan from BSC. And then I've broken that into two subsets, which is basically the yellow. The yellow is areas that I'm proposing to renaturalize, which are the unvegetated degraded. And I'm distinguishing that from, for example, this big area here, we identified as degraded, but that's the area with the pines. So I'm splitting the degraded into those two categories. So as you can see, the proposed roads going through here. So what on this figure, what we have is the blue is areas of degraded, non-vegetated that's proposed to be developed, the roadway. The green is within the proposed roadway, degraded but vegetated. Basically this area here and a little bit on this side and a little sliver up here. And
not the dark green, correct?
I'm sorry?
Just that lighter green, not the dark green, correct?
That's correct, yes, thank you. Yeah, the dark green is the BVW.
Right, I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on the greens,
Yep, thank you.
especially the chairman.
That's this light green here. The blue, as I said, is degraded, the unvegetated degraded that's proposed to be developed. And the red, my color's a little off, but the purple red is non-degraded riverfront proposed to be developed. And you can see that comes up here. So basically, again, the yellow is, and this is considering the conceptual basins moved out of the inner riparian, which is the blue. So, and then if I can skip up in this document, the areas, I should have put these on the same plan, I realized. Basically what we have is the non-vegetated degraded to be developed is about 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet of unvegetated degraded to be restored. And then the light green, which was the degraded vegetated, was about 2,000 square feet. And the non-degraded to be developed is 10,000 square feet. So within those yellow areas, again, these are the bare sand areas. I'm proposing restoration in accordance with 1058-5F, which is basically, topsoil and planting. And I provide some specifications, and we can talk about, the details of that if you'd like. But essentially, what I'm proposing is under 1058-5F, which is the degraded provisions of the regs, where the applicant proposes restoration, alteration may be allowed, notwithstanding the criteria, what I'll call the normal riverfront criteria, at a ratio of if you propose restoration, at least 1-to-1 of restored area to area not conforming to the criteria. Basically, we're at about 2-to-1. And even if you were to consider the degraded vegetated riverfront as non-degraded, we're still well in excess of the required one-to-one ratio required under the regs. So this really brings us to Rob and I were talking earlier. What seems to us to be two threshold questions that we're really looking at from the commission, and the first is I know the basins in the inner riparian was an important issue to the commission. So with the basins outside the inner riparian, and as I said, these are sketched here, and Rob can talk about his level of confidence in terms of being able to get these designs to work. He's confident that he can get them to at least mostly work, but hasn't frankly invested the substantial time in redoing that. But based upon that presumption, and obviously it would require, you know, your peer review, his formal detailed design and your peer review evaluating conformance with the stormwater regs. But as a threshold question, would the commission be in a position to approve this preferred alternative as the crossing? And again, I use that term preferred alternative, which is a term under the 1058-4 provision, and we're operating under 1058-5, which is really the second kind of threshold question in my view. I know that your consultant had, at least initially, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'll say questioned whether the riverfront alternative, whether the riverfront work should be parsed into two different sections. In other words, review part of it under 1058-4 and part of it under 1058-5. Based on my experience and you know, reading the cases and my personal experience going through this, I'm quite confident that it's appropriate to, when there's degraded riverfront, to operate under 1058-5, which is where we are here. So if we differ on that, if the commission differs on those points, then essentially we're at an impasse. And so I you know, Rob and I were talking, and we thought it appropriate, Mr. Chairman, to just kind of lay those issues out. You know, we're happy to talk about, you know, the particulars of the restoration and you know, the plant species selected and all those sorts of things. But if we can't get past those threshold questions, then it's really not worth everybody's time to talk about restoration. That would never happen, you know, under an order from the commission. So that's kind of where we are. Just as I said, trying to bring it to a head, because if the commission were in a position to approve the crossing as the way into the back of the site, you know, where the bulk of the development would be proposed outside of jurisdiction, then you know, Rob would then go and grind out the design and the stormwater calcs, submit them to the commission for you to have reviewed by your peer reviewer. But again, if the commission's position is that, you know, no, this just isn't appropriate from the get-go, then there's no value in going through that exercise. So that's kind of where we are. As I said, you know, hoping to focus it. I believe that we've given the commission everything you've asked for, you know, in terms of particulars. And So I guess with that, I'll turn it back and happy to discuss any part of it.
Okay, so this is very important information. Thank you for your explanation. I had a little bit of difficulty following it, but this was helpful.
Good.
I wish we had been at this point last May. The project would have been much further along, that's for sure. But that being said, I understand what you're saying. It appears that DEP did not feel that the project qualified as a limited project because there might be another alternative with less impact. We have investigated that. I'm going to ask the commission to carefully consider whether what we're going to say, this is the applicant's preferred alternative. The commission was saying that alternative, I believe 4 was a better alternative, especially in light of the fact that the basins were in the inner riparian zone. We did not feel that that was a permittable project. So the commission is going to need to carefully consider this because Mr. McManus is correct. If the commission feels that moving the basins out and that the impacts associated with the crossing are less than the impacts for the clearing of the trees for alternative 4, if that outweighs those impacts, then this would be after review a permittable project. Now, if anyone wants to discuss this, I understand, that's fine. And we can do that if you have questions. But people are going to have to respond to the administrator with their feeling on how we're going to proceed. This is a situation where we've looked at it in some cases multiple times. Do we have enough information? We certainly have more information now. I think we might be able to make some sort of decision. The only thing that I'm going to talk to Paul about is, that acts, if we were to proceed with permitting this particular access to the rest of the property, what is the disposition of the balance of the property? Because in our regulations we talk about we call it segregation. In the MIPA regs it's segmentation, but we have language saying all of the impacts associated with the project, environmental impacts, should be considered. So if he's going to build a roadway there anyway to do something else, then this crossing would not be necessary because he's going to build a roadway there anyway. So, and I don't know if you're in a position to be able to answer that. I think probably only Lou would be in a position to be able to answer that. But that's the only question that I would have. Paul, does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think so, and let me, if I may, go to different sheet. This is a broader view. So, I mean, basically, this is, we're talking about developing up this area up here.
Right.
That's the goal. And the question obviously is, is how to get there. But so in terms of your question, there is more property that's to the south, which would be the left in this image. But this up here, this is not part of the property. So the only ways at all to get here would be to come use this existing crossing, or as we've discussed, to squeeze in around here and do this
Right,
alternative.
that's the area I was thinking about, Paul.
Oh, okay. So I guess I misunderstood.
No, that's okay. I mean, we've already talked about the frontage on Lake Street, and we talked about the way it's been subdivided and moving forward, that those lots may not qualify as limited project. And if I remember correctly, the statement, it may have been Rob who said, well, that's okay, we'll take our chances with that. So I think we've put that issue to bed. What I'm looking at here is, if we say, okay, fine, you get your preferred crossing, and the commission was looking at alternative 4, which is the one to the north. And so if he's going to build a roadway in there to develop that in some other manner, then the impacts associated with that should be considered as part of the equation for balancing whether or not the crossing is necessary. In other words, Paul, if he's going to build something in there, he's going to build a road back there, then it makes sense to me to just continue the road and not have the crossing. If he's going to develop that. And that lot is part of the subdivision. In our regs, we have, the language about, development of the parcel, all environmental impacts have to be considered. And, the development of that site would necessitate.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming from now. Excuse me. I can't answer your question directly, but I can say somewhat indirectly that I know just from looking at people look at feasibility for other things, to build a road. So conceptually, what you're saying is build a road in here, make a cul-de-sac, and get a couple lots in here up to the north. I guess what my take on that is I cannot imagine that would be economically viable. Just because if you're talking about, you're talking about $800 or $1,000 a linear foot to build a road, you'd only get potentially usable frontage on one side. And Rob, maybe you could have some more information on this, but I just can't imagine that's a viable thing to do economically, because you're going to build the first, this is 200, you're going to build the first 600 feet of road to get to this point before you can even begin to use any frontage. So
yeah. Mr. Chairman, I don't know of any thoughts to put something in there like that.
Okay, the only reason I mention it is because I know that Lou has on a couple of occasions talked to the assistant town planner, and he's talked about putting townhouses in there. So,
when I saw the original concept plans that were done for this site by other people before he got involved, it didn't include a roadway on that side.
No, but Lou has talked to the assistant town planner and told her that it was his intention to develop that potentially with townhouses, but
yeah, even if that's what I'm saying though, even the ones I saw, I did see a plan with townhouses that were someone else had drew. It wasn't part of something I drew or anyone on our team.
No.
But it didn't include a road coming in that way. It was just, it would have came in right where we're showing it, and they looped around and came back out on themselves, the one I saw. So I think if something did happen back there, I don't see the feasibility to go out that way for any project, no matter what it was. Because you're building a lot of roads and you're not gonna put anything over there per se. Like houses or condos or whatever you would do, there's no benefit to go out that way. You don't gain anything.
Relative to the cost of building it.
Yeah, and it's a lot of cost. It's a long way. And road costs, as you know, are pretty high these days.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
I don't see that as being a feasible alternative in any project if something else was to happen here. That's just my opinion. but
No,
I don't see that as
Well,
a
that's
feasible
why we're
alternative.
having the conversation, Rob. That's why we're having the conversation.
Yeah, I
Because-
wouldn't, it wouldn't be my suggestion, I can tell you that, if I was to draw something.
Mr. Chair.
It doesn't add up to do that type of.
Question.
Sure, Mike.
Yeah, so I would say take a step further if from what you're saying, Mr. Chair, and that is that if we approve the preferred alternative of the applicant and let them put the road across the crossing, and then down the road, they for any reason decide to put a road across the backside approximately where, or even the same general area where the option 4, alternative 4 was that we prefer as having potentially less environmental impact. And they developed it in any way, but putting in a road there where they said that it wasn't feasible to put a road in and would be more of an impact and so forth. I would kind of feel, I can't use a better word than betrayed, because you
Right.
took away an argument that, I mean, you gave us an argument that it wasn't valid and it wasn't usable and it was more impact and so forth. And we don't want to do that. And then you go ahead, if the applicant did, I'm not saying the applicant's going to, I don't know what the applicant plans, but there's no way, I'm going to ask the question, there's no way to put a restriction on this project that prohibits that down the road, correct?
Well, no, we can't write we can't write an order saying that you can never put a road through there. We can't do that.
Right, unless they were going to give it as a conservation restriction property, in which case it couldn't be developed. Therefore, the road would never be put in the area that
They can
gets
maintain
looked at by
ownership.
the applicant as being undesirable anyway.
There's a couple of other mechanisms that they could use. You know, they could put it in chapter 91. Is that?
No, chapter 91 is Great Ponds.
Okay, chapter 90.
That'd be tough to do. That'd be tough to do.
Oh, yeah, that's.
What chapter is it when it's
Sorry, Article
bordering
97.
recycling?
I would agree with you, Mike, that, you know, we're making the argument that it's not feasible. I don't know why we come back and propose it.
I'm just saying,
Ever.
the other question I have, Mr. Chair, was I thought that these two items that were brought up today by Paul, the first one being the moving the basins out of the inner riparian, that was like a, given that we've been, as you said, multiple times during both sidewalks and the meetings, we've been asking for that repeatedly. That was sort of like a given, and that making that, okay, if we do that, now would you want to approve this? That doesn't to me relate as much as the second point, which is, do we agree that we should go, that the project is approvable if we think that alternative 4 is more of an impact? We, the Conservation Commission, think it is more of an impact environmentally. And so I separate the two. And, you know, while the first one is like, okay, great, move the basins as we really absolutely felt had to be done out of the inner riparian, that's fine, but don't tie that into the second threshold question, whatever. To me, they're totally separate from me. And the last question I have is, on this plan off to the left, I know the very off the paper, we hit Lake Street at the corner there, and it goes down, and when we first walked this site a long time ago, we were down off of Lake Street, because I know there's some houses that are back in that area off of Lake Street that abut that property, and there was tree clearing happening over there and stuff. And we were walking through to try and determine what were wetlands and so forth. None of that site area is that shown on this plan? Is that the top left corner of this plan, or is that what?
It's not on this particular plan.
Okay. Is that a separate lot? Is that a separate piece of property?
It's not. It's all wrapped into this one piece, and it's within the subdivision set that we submitted. And the chairman had pointed this out very early on in the process, Mr. Chairman, if you recall. And there's some wetlands down there. There's a river down there.
Yeah,
with
mill.
buffers.
Two
And the
rivers.
comment was, we were showing A&R type lots. And those lots, some of them, you can't get to the back side of them without going over the river. And the argument is, don't come back to me later and say, this is gonna be a limited project, we're gonna develop this lot, because we're looking at it as a whole. We completely agree with the chairman's thoughts on that. We're not gonna come back and ask to cross that wetland or that river for any of those lots. We wouldn't do that. So
Okay,
they would
so,
either have to be buildable without going into the river areas like that, or not buildable.
okay, so
Right,
the
it's
reason
not-
we're left.
I completely agree with the chairman's thoughts on what he was saying about that area.
All right, so the question I have then, Rob or Mr. Chair, is so that the rest of the property, which I thought was much bigger than this, and the area that is much closer to the Lake Street side of the site is omitted from the plans, not because of some future plan to develop it, but because it's been ruled out, as we discovered when we started walking it early on. There's a stream there, a river, and wetlands everywhere and so forth. Is
It's
that
just
correct?
not on this sheet, Mike.
It's just not on this sheet. It's not omitted from the plans. Just
it's
our main
part-
discussion has been around this wetland area here. 'Cause it's
Right, I
where the
understand
road-
the focus has been on this
proposed.
part. I just don't recall us talking about the other part at all in the last couple of hearings, and I'm thinking, did it drop off the radar, or is it just not being discussed for some other reason?
Well, it's just to be clear, I mean, I don't remember what the acreage in total is. Rob was talking about one particular area with the frontage lots. There is a big chunk of land further to the south that's well off of this particular sheet.
Didn't you have a site plan early on, Paul, that you showed us in the very beginning that had the whole site on it, including this area here as a small?
I'm looking for it now.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I
Yeah,
had
I'll-
one. I'm looking now to see what I have in here.
It's in the original plan set. It's in the
is.
Dropbox.
Yeah, I probably saw in the Dropbox originally, but I just was again saying we're focusing on this. I understand why we're focusing on this, but to the exclusion, it seems like, of everything else. And if they're looking for determination as to whether the project is viable from us, and we aren't discussing other parts of the site or clear on what exactly ever else might be, and we just discussed tonight the idea of, well, down the road, is it possible that the applicant could want to develop another portion of the property and put in townhouses by the recycling center, or maybe on this far left side? In my mind, we want to make sure, I want to make sure that had been.
Yeah, so this really goes to the question that I thought the chairman was asking a few minutes ago. And what my response was that right now we're talking about, and I lost my little hand cursor, but right now we're talking about developing, getting to this area here.
Right.
And so what we don't have is the ability to get to this area here from anything other than the two options that we've been discussing, which is the existing crossing here to upgrade that, or to sneak around on the north, the alternative 4 route. So in terms of the way I look at it is there is other property, and there's wetlands and uplands down there, and I truly don't remember what is there and what may or may not be there for potential. But in this case, there's a fairly substantial area that can accommodate, several building lots up here once you get to it. So the question really that we're addressing is getting to this area. And like, as I said, it's either it's either alternative 1 or alternative 4 to come around this side. So Rob, did you find that? Should I stop sharing?
I think I got one right here. I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Mr. Chair, did we hear from the planning board as to whether alternative 4, that I think the applicant brought up, whether that road length would be approved?
They really, Mike, they really haven't had a lot of planning board review. There have been a lot of continuations, and I suspect that the planning board's trying to determine what we feel is going to be permittable from our perspective before they conduct any review. So
Okay.
the applicant has requested multiple continuations, and so we're doing our work so that we are going to be looking at the same plan. But we have 2 more hearings to go, and so
I got this on my screen. I can
okay,
pull this
let's
up for you
we'll
real
take
quick.
a look at that. I know.
I'm going to apologize though. I can't rotate it. I don't know why. I put a new Adobe on my computer and I'm not really good at using it.
That's all right.
You have to be in edit mode, I think.
So this is, can you see this? You can see the whole site now?
Yeah.
Are we seeing this?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so this is the area to the south. I'm gonna zoom in on it so you can see the resource areas that are over there. So this is the river, this shaded area right here. That's the 200-foot river.
And there's another one too, Rob.
Huh?
There's another one too, another
On the
point.
back, I was getting there.
Yep,
But then this
okay.
backside is the same river we've been talking about all along. This is the other end of it down the south here. So this is the 200 on the other side. So this unshaded area in the middle here is the only area that's not in the 200. And then this is wetlands. You have a wetland here, you have buffers around it, you have more wetlands up here, you have a vernal pool up. These two, I believe, are vernal pools up in this area. I think we have a couple vernal pools.
Yeah,
right
I
here.
think there were actually 3, I believe.
Right. Yeah, something like that. So, and I think the comment was like this lot 15, here we show it as an A&R, you can't get to it through here. And we would never be able to.
Right.
So I
Mike,
think, well, the idea when he was doing the project was to include all the property. And it was, the main reason was to, free zoning on everything. Was one of the reasons, as well as develop the main piece. So this would not work in this configuration to get buildable lots here. We wouldn't get all these. We're not gonna get all these lots here at the end of the day because of all the resource areas and all the buffers that are down in that area. We haven't gone down here and done soil testing. I don't even know if it perks down in that area. I mean, the rest of the site's been all gravel and sands. I've not gotten into this area and done any testing. I think I got down into this lot 15 once in this area here. I dug a couple holes, and I can tell you the water table was very high. This area is a lot lower. As you can see, these are contours. There's not a lot of difference between the elevations here and the elevations in this wetland. There's not a lot of rise in this upland area from the wetland area. So it's not real desirable land. The desirable portion of this piece is that backland where they did the gravel removal, because it's all sand and gravel, and we don't have water table issues back there like we have up here.
so Mike, we had this discussion like one of the very first hearings.
Correct.
And, we came to the understanding that, these lots, once the permit's issued, these are the lots, and that there's no way that they'll qualify as limited projects. So,
correct.
And we'll put language in the order of conditions if it makes the commission feel better, saying that on the transfer of the property, that they will not qualify for the limited project because they were subdivided this way with this knowledge. So
Yeah, we would agree with that, Mr. Chairman.
I tell my clients, you can't win with a created hardship.
that's exactly
correct.
the thing.
That's the term that I use, is a created hardship.
Yeah, we were in agreement from day one with you, Mr. Chairman, on that. Absolutely.
So Mike, what we really need to do now is we need to wrap this up. We have 2 more hearings.
Go ahead.
And we're late on those. What I'm going to ask you to do, first thing we need to do, we have submitted, we have received notification that the peer review funds are just about out. And we've spent a great deal of effort on primarily field work. So Mr. Petrosi is going to have to understand, he's going to have to fund the peer review account to continue. We haven't even got into the engineering. And in fact, as Paul stated, Rob hasn't even had an opportunity to complete the design. This is conceptual. So we're going to need the peer review. So I'm going to leave that to you, Paul.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess really I'm back to my initial question about these threshold issues. I mean, those aren't the peer reviewers deal with the nuts and bolts of things, but these questions, what I'm calling the threshold questions, are really the commission's discretion. And we're looking to the commission to tell us where you're at, because frankly, the applicant's position is that, if there's a path forward, then he's willing to go forward on that path. But if that path forward does not exist, then we should all move on. So we're really asking, is there a path forward? Because as I said, if the commission feels that the crossing is simply inappropriate, then it doesn't matter where the basins are. It doesn't matter whether BSC agrees with the nuts and bolts of the design or not, because it's on a high level. It's really a high level question. I view these things as a can and a may, and a can relates to meeting the nuts and bolts of the performance standards and groundwater offset and pipe sizes and all those things. May is really the discretionary part, which falls on the commission. That's why the commissioners get a vote.
Well, that's why, the regs say the commission may permit, so.
I agree, and that's why I phrased it that way. Because that's really the question about, is there a path forward?
All right, so this is something that the commission is going to need to consider carefully. I'm going to ask everyone to think about this. I'm going to ask them to provide any questions that they may have, that the administrator can get the answers from the applicant. And at our next hearing, we're going to need to provide the applicant the direction that they see. That's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have homework to do, and obviously we can't discuss it with more than just a member and the administrator. She can provide or will obtain any information you need to make your decision, but we need to do that at our next hearing.
Mr. Chair, just to make sure I'm understanding this. So we're being asked to make a decision on whether this project is permittable in our opinions individually without having gone through the whole application process, meaning peer review, engineering, water, stormwater, correct?
Well, what we're asking for is that high level assessment with clearly with the understanding that it would be required to meet the stormwater standards, and everything that goes along with that. That's the can part. We're asking for the may part, and both positives in both categories are required. But if the may is no, then it doesn't matter whether we can or can't meet the technical criteria.
We're not asking for an approval to say you're going to approve this crossing. What we really need is the commission to give us guidance to say this is the preferred alternative, is the least amount of disturbance, and we agree with this alternative to go through there. Now go back and design it, make the drainage work, make all the restoration things work, and go through all our comments. But if you're telling us that this crossing is not viable because there's a better alternative, then there's no sense going through all those steps at this point if we're not going to get this alternative as being the one that's favored. That's really what we're after. So we're not asking you to approve it.
We get it, Rob. We
Yep,
get it.
we understand.
Yeah, I knew what Mike was asking that question, if you had to approve the plan. We're not asking for an approval. We just want to have a direction.
That's correct. That's correct.
Correct.
I think the commissioners can reach out to me. I'll be very happy to answer their questions. We really have another hearing that
Two
we're
hearings.
overdue, 2 hearings. We'd like to move on tonight. I think we are beating this thing to death.
Okay, so can we continue this for 2 weeks, Mr. Chairman?
No, we cannot. We are already.
When are you on the planning board?
I'm not sure. I don't know the date.
It's in
Um,
April. Isn't it in April?
Not sure when it got continued. I don't know the dates. I mean, we don't need a lot of time at the next meeting because we're not making any changes. We just need to get your consensus.
Well, based on what we just had for the discussion, it's gonna take some time. We can go to March 8th.
What's the, so that's 4 weeks. Okay.
We can do March 8th. And so what we can do is, I'm looking at 8 o'clock, is that?
I think I probably should go 8:30. Yeah, I think we need 8:30.
8:30, okay, yep, because we have a note, yep.
Yep.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of March 8th at 8:30.
So moved.
Neil,
Second.
Brian. I think I can I think I can hear everybody's voice. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote. So,
Please reach out to me, folks.
Okay, we'll see you on the 8th.
Thank you.
okay,
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good night.
What was that old AT&T ad? Reach out and touch someone.
yeah, well. I'm not in a laughing mood right now. Jeez. All right. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuation of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a 44 by 16-foot garage with an in-law apartment and to install a 1,000-gallon septic tank with 4-inch PVC pipe to connect to the existing D-box located in the 100-foot buffer zone to border vegetated wetlands. The property is located at Assessors Map 9, parcel 105, 10 Cutler Street, Bellingham. Paul D. Simone, Colonial Engineering, Medway, Mass. has submitted the following on behalf of Jody Willis, 10 Cutler Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, February 8th at 8:30. Apologies, we're running a little late on that. And apologies to the folks from Railroad Street. We're going to get to you, I promise. Is someone here representing?
Can you hear me?
Is that you, Paul?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, we went out on site. The wetland flags were not in place, but what has occurred here is that the garage with an in-law apartment over is a detached building. Essentially, there'll be 2 buildings for housing on 1 lot. And in addition to that, the proposal is to create 2 living units in 1 house. So there'll be 3 living units on 1 lot. And it's going to require zoning approval. So Paul, we're going to continue this until the zoning stuff is handled. But I think.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We're not going to zoning. They've taken out the kitchen and everything. All they're gonna do is put a room in there. They need the garage is what they're going for, in the bathroom. So, we're not even gonna be going to zoning. It's gonna get a building permit for the garage itself. And with the bathroom, with the plumbing. And that's it.
Did you talk to Tim Icardi about that, Paul?
I went there not yesterday, day before, and I couldn't get a hold of Tim, or I went down to see you too, and you weren't there, but that's what the game plan is they're just gonna build a garage with a bathroom.
Yeah, well, okay, that's gonna be up to the zoning compliance officer and building inspector. Yeah, Paul, we've seen a couple of these where, yeah, it's a garage with a bathroom, and next thing you know, there's a couple of rooms in the garage, and then the next thing you know, it's an apartment. So
Yeah, well, the thing is the owners, or the owner, she wanted to, for somewhere for her parents to come stay while they were with them, because they were out of state. So that's what the game plan was at first, was to build an apartment for them to just stay there for a week or two when they visit. And when I told them, I says, well, you got to connect it to the house because it's an in-law. They said, oh, geez. So they took out the kitchen. They said, well, they can eat in our place if they come and visit. We'll just put a room there. That way they can just sleep on a couch or something. And so, but the garage is the main thing. And the bathroom. So, because I guess I don't know, her or him have an office in the house and they want to move it out there. So they need someplace to, put their desk and everything and all that kind of stuff. So the in-law is out, and the garage and the bathroom is what they're going for.
okay, well, we're gonna wait for some kind of
They're
recommendation.
they're redoing the architectural, so we'll get you a copy of those.
Okay, perfect. And we did look at the hut. I think, Paul, Ian talked to you about the hut.
Yeah, I told them they had to take that out.
Okay, good.
And clean up, I went over all the stuff that around the hut, there's a lot of stuff there too.
Yeah, and there was some stuff that was thrown down the bank. And let us know when the flags are back up and.
I think they're up.
Oh,
now.
are they up now?
Yeah, the flags are up now, yeah.
All right, so we'll go back, we'll go out, there's probably only 4 or 5 flags. We'll go out and take a look at that at some point during the week.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of March 22nd.
So moved.
Well, wait a minute, I gotta get a time.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm getting all goofed up. What do we have for time on that?
7.
Okay, March 22nd at 7.
Okay, so moved.
Okay,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, a unanimous vote. All right, so now we,
All right, thanks, Cliff.
thank you, Paul. All right,
All right, take care.
okay, we almost got back on schedule. Excuse me, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act. General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a single-family subdivision roadway and appurtenances, including the stormwater management system, to support a 6-lot residential subdivision entitled Snet Estates, located within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and isolated vegetated wetlands at Assessor's Map 80, Parcel 9-1, 0 Railroad Street, Bellingham. Daniel American, Legacy Engineering, Millis, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of Michael Burr, Lake Street, Bellingham. The hearings will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, February 8th at 8:50. I see Dan is here.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. All set for me to
All
proceed?
set.
Okay, good. As the chair indicated, my name is Dan Merrickin with Legacy Engineering here on behalf of the applicant, Mike Burr. This is a piece of property between 336 and 340 Lake Street. It's 9.7 acres of land here. Basically, everything you see off to the left is wetlands and a river. We're not proposing to do any work there. The right half of the property is where we're proposing a single family subdivision.
Okay, is
And if
everybody
you
familiar
look-
where this is?
Kind of across the street from High Ridge Road. This is
Yep.
High Ridge here. So Peters River is one of the property boundaries here on the west side. Obviously, there's bank, riverfront area, land underwater, bordering land subject to flooding, all associated with Peters River. We're not doing any work within any of those jurisdictional areas. We're proposing to do work kind of in the central portions of the site. And those central portions of the site look like this. So we have two areas that come out to Lake Street. This one over here to the north was clearly left as a road option. It has the corner roundings, it has everything. It's almost across the street from High Ridge Road, but it has wetland areas. So obviously we did not elect to use that as a proposed roadway entrance for the site because that would have more adverse impacts than what we're proposing to do. What we're proposing to do is to use this frontage onto Lake Street, where we have a small IVW to the left, and then offsite to the right is a BVW. And in the back of the property, as I indicated, there's a bordering vegetated wetland that runs along the south side. We have Peters River. We have the wetland associated with that. We have the riverfront area associated with that. We have bordering land subject to flooding, which we delineated based on topography. We're not doing any work within 400 feet of Peters River. We're not doing any work within 100 feet of the land subject to flooding. So those areas, although they're resource areas on our property, they're not really, they're not impacted in any way. What we are proposing to do here is to build a road. And this application is for the road only. We don't have enough information on our lot developments at this point to present to you anything specific. We do show a general development scenario for each lot so that when we do our stormwater design and analysis, we have a basis for that. But we will be coming back to you for any lots that involve work in the buffer zone. So this application is basically for the subdivision road. And you can see here that we have proposed to bring it in between the IVW and the BVW offsite. And we've kind of worked our way around the isolated wetlands. So there's no work proposed in the 25-foot buffer zone. There's the total work in the buffer zone between these two areas is 16,915 square feet. So that basically is from this line here, this is the buffer zone, down towards Lake Street. And this part of the road will be in the buffer zone. 4,210 square feet of that is between the 25 and the 50, and the rest is between the 50 and the 100. We have no stormwater discharges in this area. Our stormwater management system is proposed to basically take all of the runoff from the road and bring it all the way to the back end of the subdivision where we have our cul-de-sac and a proposed stormwater basin. So this is a stormwater infiltration basin. It's going to treat all of the runoff from the road and all of its associated infrastructure. I will point out that there is around Peters River, there is an estimated and priority habitat area. This area up here is not within any jurisdictional areas. So while we have a little bit of work proposed in the corner of this estimated and priority habitat, but It's not a resource area in and of itself. So it basically falls under the Massachusetts endangered species state law. And we've received some correspondence from NHESP indicating that they don't see any issues here. They just want a revised plan that basically confirms that the proposed limit of work, even on the lots where we're going to be coming back to you with more specific information, is going to be the limit of work, the maximum limit of work. And if that is indicated, they're going to be satisfied with this. So I'll be submitting that to them. I'll submit you a copy of that as well. But I'm not even sure what the species in question is yet.
I was
They
going
haven't,
to ask you that.
yeah, they haven't provided a letter yet telling me what the species is. I'm guessing it's a turtle of some kind, but I'm not sure.
I'm thinking that probably because it runs parallel to Peters River, it could
Yeah.
be a riparian species, like our favorite, the American brook lamprey, or Neil.
The Mystic Valley arthropod?
But we never know for sure. It could
The elusive Mystic Valley arthropod.
I delisted that some years back.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
we can't make fun. We can't make fun of that one anymore.
Yeah, you can still have fun with it.
Well, we were going to have an arthropod roast someday. So please,
Now we
It's a
have
lot to make a mouthful.
Dave, when they let you know, you pass the information on to us, would you?
Absolutely, of course. So I mean, that's the high level overview. We have our proposal from BSC. We'll be submitting those funds in the next few days to you so that they can undertake their review. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. We submitted a comprehensive stormwater management report with all of the bells and whistles that go along with that O&M plan, SWIPs, calculations, narratives, all of that good stuff. But if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, okay. I had just a couple of quick comments. First of all, it's refreshing to see a subdivision proposal where the environmental impacts are minimized. Because we don't get a lot of those anymore. On sheet 5,
Yeah.
sheet C5.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm seeing a slope easement there of, and it looked like the slope easement is 12 feet from the isolated vegetative wetland.
Yeah, so that's just an
itself.
easement that allows, for example, if the normal progress is you build the road to binder course and then you start building houses, and you might end up conveying a house lot out before you finish the road. So the purpose of the slope easement is just to give the developer continued rights to finish any side sloping areas that they need to finish. It's not a definition of limit of work. The limit of work would be what you approve on this plan, and that would be what
C8.
we have shown on sheet C8.
Right, okay, that's the one I was gonna look at, and as you mentioned, you're right outside or right at the 25-foot no disturb zone. So when we go out there, that's one of the areas that we'll pay attention to. You did show submit photographs. I didn't see any looking to the south. I saw the photographs going to looking to the north, but we'll take a look at that. And there we did also see the 4,200 square feet of alteration to the 25 to 50, and because that's a limited disturbance zone, at some point somewhere else on the site we'll ask for some buffer zone enhancement. Maybe there's some areas that are open, maybe toward the back there's areas that we could do some supplemental plantings, we can take a look at that when we go out. Obviously, we're gonna go out. We'll take a look at the resource areas. You're staying well away from the river. Are your wetland flags still up?
Yes.
They are.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna need to, we'll go out, we'll look at, the flag resource areas. And if I'm not mistaken, it's pretty dense around the Peters River in that area.
Yeah, there's if you go back here, there is there's a cart path. So like
Ah,
you see this contour right here?
yes, I do.
There's an old cart path that kind of trucks right through here. that you
Oh,
can
how
walk out.
convenient.
And there's actually a bridge over the river there, I believe.
So that'll make, when you flag the wetland areas, did they also flag mean high annual watermark?
We are so far away from the river, we did not
Okay,
flag mean annual high water or
Okay.
wetlands. You know, that's obviously there's a significant expense associated with that. And given that we're 400 feet away from the river, we did not
I
flag
understand.
those resource areas.
I understand. So what we'll do is, we will walk back, especially considering there's a cart path.
Yeah.
And if just to confirm what you're saying, but it appears that it would not be a problem for us. But again, field verified. So
I'm
guess-
happy to join you if you want to let me know when you want to do that.
we would like that.
Yeah, that'd be
We
great.
would like that. And I don't know if you availed yourself of some of the earlier happenings. We have a number of site walks to do. And if the flags are still up, we would like to be able to get this one done. What is the availability of the commission for Saturdays moving forward here?
I've actually got pretty much any Saturday. I've got the 25th and then any Saturday in March.
Okay, nothing on the 11th or 18th.
No.
Okay,
I'm pretty open except for the 18th.
gentlemen,
Good for the 11th, 18th, or 25th.
25th is out for me. But
I
I'm
think
good
that should
on
be
the-
all right for anything except for this Saturday.
yeah, all right. Gonna have to be the 18th or the 25th. Noel can't make the 25th.
I can't make the 25th.
No, Noel can make the 25th. She
Oh,
can't make the
Yes.
18th. Okay, Neil can't make the 25th. How many people can make the 18th? Because I was hoping to continue them to the 22nd so that we could go over the resource areas.
I can make it.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ariane,
For the 18th,
yeah,
I can't make it, cannot make it.
cannot make it. Okay.
Even with a wake-up call?
Mr. Chairman, if it matters, I'm not sure that I could make the 22nd meeting. I have two other meetings that evening.
Okay.
I certainly could make the 8th meeting, if that's enough.
Actually, you know what? It was the March. I had it down for the March 22nd.
Oh, okay. Well, I can make that.
You know what?
Yeah, because we wanted.
Because February 22nd is the same meeting date. And so that will give us additional time to get out there. we-
Neil and Mike can make the 18th.
Neil and Mike can make the 18th. Perhaps we could do 4:55 and then do this.
That's what they want to do.
We have to take a look at 455.
What's left to see there?
455 Hartford Avenue. If you recall, they were talking about doing enhancement plantings, and we wanted to evaluate if it was an appropriate location.
Oh, by the street, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, right. So we could take a look at that first.
That's
and then
quick.
perhaps do this one after.
Yeah, it's planned.
Does that work?
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Where would
Dan,
you suggest we go when we're going down to the one off of Broward Street there? Where do you park?
how about the end of High Ridge Road?
Right at Edgewise, walk across the street.
Dan, does that make sense?
You could actually park. You can come in and there's a kind of like a dirt driveway in here to the left of the IVW. You can park in there if you'd like. That's
Okay.
fine.
So just past the first High Ridge Road coming south?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Just in case we get lost on the way. All right, yeah, I'm built. So we want to do this the 18th? Start at 8:30 up at 4:55 or?
Yeah, we're gonna start on the 18th at 4:55. And I'm anticipating no more than a half hour there.
Yeah.
So allowing for time.
Is that 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
What,
Dan, we'd be looking at
what address, Mr. Chairman?
455 Hartford Avenue.
Right
That's
next to Lakeview. I mean, not Lakeview,
Lake Street.
no, the
Restaurant.
restaurant. What restaurant is it?
Oh, the
yeah.
Rosewood.
Rosewood, thank you.
Sure, we can park at the Rosewood. They're not open yet. And then we'll walk up into that one. And so Dan will probably be there around 9:15
Okay.
ish. You're number 2
problem.
on the list. If you were number 3, it'd be plus or minus 40 minutes.
That's February 18th, 2 weeks.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. But then we will have there'll be other opportunities for Noel to get out because we will have other sidewalks to work on.
Perfect.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of March 22nd at 7:30 and to conduct a site inspection on Saturday, February 18th, somewhere around 9:15.
So moved.
Michael,
Second.
Brian. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. We'll look forward to meeting you in the field.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too, thanks.
Thanks.
All right. So what we have remaining for site inspections, we're going to need to take a look at Blackstone and North. And we're going to need to get back out on the Hartford Avenue site. And they're on for the 8th. And the 4th is MACC. Matt, I don't think we're gonna need you to come out on the one we just did.
Okay.
I think we'll be okay on that one.
Okay, that's fine.
I think we were gonna have you come out for 455 though.
Yeah.
If I'm coming out for 4:55, I probably ought to come along for, it's always good to have eyes on.
Okay,
If you want to come, you're welcome.
okay.
But I work at your pleasure, so
All
you
right,
can
does
tell me
that
to
work?
buzz off.
Does that work for you? The
Yeah,
18th?
yeah.
Okay. Do you know where 455 is?
Yes, he's been.
Yes,
Okay, that's right. You have been there.
yep.
Okay, no stomach bugs.
No, All
Okay,
set with that.
Do we want to set up more sidewalks or
so
tentative? Or we have it?
tentatively,
Blackstone and North.
Blackstone and North and WS, I guess we're looking at the 25th.
You're assuming they'll have the markers up at North and Blackstone?
Well, if they don't, we won't go there.
Okay, I mean, just, that was one
I'd
thing.
rather go there first and then go to WS.
Yeah,
Well, Neil can't make the 25th.
Oh, shoot, that's right.
We'd like Neil to make.
I'd like.
I'm gonna be in Atlanta.
Oh, good for you.
we can FaceTime and walk them around, Sean.
When is WS continue to?
We continued them till March 8th. Well, the only thing to do, and see, Matt can't make the 4th.
No.
No, I'll be busy with MACC business.
See, you know, we like to take seminars,
And I think I have seminars that day. too.
seminar, yeah, we're not presenting, but we're watching. The 11th is not good for us. There's no way we're gonna tack WS onto the 18th. We'll be out for 4 hours. I really would like Neil to be there. Let's give that some thought because we need to have Matt there as well. Yeah, and I'm not sure about when they talk about, well, we'll be able to go through the whole site. I'm not seeing going through the whole site in one shot.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, I interpret that to mean that eventually we will then have gone through the whole site, not that we're gonna walk it all in one shot either. There's no way.
Oh, okay.
That's what I hoped. They meant, whether they did or not.
Well, we can't make it this.
Well, the only other thing we can do is this. We can shoot for March 11th. And tell them we couldn't get anything done before March 11th and let them know that. And maybe they'll want a continuation from the 8th until the 22nd. How many people can make March 11th?
I can.
Oh, that looks good.
That's good to me too. Oh, fine.
And I think Noel, Ariane said yes. And I think Noel said that was a good day for her.
Yes.
That's good.
Hot dog.
March 11th.
Hot dog, it looks like the whole crew can make it.
That would be.
Wow. that'd
So
be
here's what
red
we're gonna
letter-
do.
red-
I'm
be
gonna
a
have
red
Ian
letter
reach
day.
out. I'm gonna have Ian reach out to Austin Turner, tell him there was a conflict on the 8th. We couldn't get enough people on the 25th and the 18th was already booked, but we can promise them we can get out on the 11th with a full crew. And we'll see what they want to do about that hearing night. And then we'll advise, but let's book the 11th.
Yeah, good.
So you want to do North and Blackstone that day too?
I'd like to,
Yeah, okay, so double both of
but
them.
that'll take, I'm telling you, that'll take 15-20 minutes.
Yeah,
That's all.
Maybe they could do that one on the 25th.
Or you know what? Yeah, well, that means we're gonna be out 3 weeks in a row.
Well, we'll get it done. Yeah, that's okay.
Time to earn our pay.
Well, what we're thinking, what we're thinking is, Ian just mentioned perhaps we can, Noel and Ian and I can go out on the 25th to knock out the Blackstone Street one, because it's gonna be so quick, it wouldn't take a lot of time.
I can almost walk over from my house.
You could.
Okay.
Here's what we'll do.
Let's do that.
We'll think about doing that as well. That means Ian and I are gonna have a lot of site walks. But
25th, put it in your calendar.
put it in your calendar, Noel.
Oh, Mike, would you be able to make that day?
Yeah, I have a 1 o'clock in the afternoon thing with the library, but that's fine. This is well before that.
This won't take.
No,
long.
I'm
No, it
telling
shouldn't
you.
take, it would be nice, Mr. Chair, if you could get them to mark that approximate area of the conservation restriction where this depressed areas that they wanted to use to get water off. I know that you told them basically get it back onto the site.
Yeah.
So if you really feel they're gonna do that, that's fine, but it's almost I saw that immediately. Red flags came up in my mind. I was like, what the heck were they thinking?
Well,
But anyway, yeah, the wetlands line was pretty easy to walk last time we did it a couple years ago, so. It's
yeah,
pretty.
what it demonstrates to me is that they don't have the 1 foot of freeboard for the 100-year storm.
Right.
So they need to manage their own stormwater.
Yeah.
And also they need to provide field shot grades, because we just recently had a very large subdivision, and the assumed grades were off by 2 feet, and it created bloody havoc with construction. So
Where was that?
it was at Bellingham Shores.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. They had to redo the whole site thing.
Yes.
Oh, right. All their drainage was too low. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why, and it's in our regs that we have the right to require field shot grades. We will be doing it henceforth.
Yeah, that made sense.
Okay. Is
Okay.
that it?
I think that's it.
I think that's it. All right. Thank you,
So-
everyone.
Motion adjourned.
So just don't forget to come and sign.
Don't forget to
I'll
come
be by
inside.
tomorrow morning and
Friday,
around noon time.
Friday morning.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, Tina.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks.
thanks, team.